This man was so agitated that he was ready to fight with others on the street, to the point of fearing no police. What's the reason? It turns out that this man couldn't control his anger when he met two passers-by who didn't want to criticize Israel. And then there's this female web sensation in China.
哈马斯不就抓了几个什么以色列的军官、犹太的什么开垦团吗？是不是这些人本来就是殖民主义的马前卒啊，是走狗啊，难道不该抓吗？所以说很明显，家人们啊，这个哈马斯还是太温柔了，还是太温柔了。你觉得当年世界人民面对血债血偿的这个纳粹啊、法西斯、日本军国主义该怎么报复？现在的以色列不就是犹太版的纳粹吗？还有军国主义吗？对不对？只不过啥呀？这场冲突，家人们彻底撕下了以色列军事力量什么先进的强大这个画皮，7个城镇的渗透，无人机海的攻击，家人们，火箭弹饱和轰炸呀，让什么以色列铁穹防空系统成了皇帝的新衣。现在的以色列国防，家人们，真的是一座四面漏风的破房子，就差有一个人踹一脚了，对不对？
Since the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, videos of web celebrities like this woman have sprung up on the Chinese web. They have been ranting on the air almost daily in favor of Hamas and against Israel, and Beijing has allowed such sentiments to spread on its heavily censored web. During this period, the Israeli embassy in China has been trying to gain sympathy and support by showing on its Weibo account how Hamas kills civilians. They've been highlighting atrocities committed by Hamas against women and children. However, many comments on the Weibo comment section applauded Hamas and criticized Israel for its terrorism. And there are even some frightening remarks against humanity. On the morning of October 9th, the official Weibo account of the Israeli embassy in China was briefly shut down and all content emptied as tens of thousands of Chinese netizens poured in to hurl insults and spread lies released by the CCP media. It resumed operation at around 3 p.m. that day, but the commenting function was disabled, as it wouldn't allow mainland Chinese to comment. The reinstated page had a post that read, "We are grateful to all the countries of the world that stand with Israel. We have the right to take action against Hamas for the murder and kidnapping of innocent Israelis, and we hope that the solidarity and support is offered to Israel in this difficult time." Later, the Israeli embassy in China enabled the comment function. The Weibo accounts of other foreign embassies and diplomats in China, such as Britain and Germany, who have spoken out in favor of Israel, have also been bombarded. For example, Switzerland's ambassador to China posted on October 13th that he sends his heartfelt condolences to the victims and families of the victims of the terrorist attacks in Gaza. Afterwards, hostile comments were seen. Switzerland was called a pseudo-neutral country, and I don't even want to wear my Swiss watch anymore. I'm so mad. The Swiss ambassador was also asked to get out of the Chinese platform. In contrast to the siege on the Weibo accounts of the US, UK, and other Western embassies, the Iranian embassy's Weibo account has received strong support from the Chinese. Even though they don't have to be the most enlightened of the Chinese, some people have found it odd that little pinks are so hateful towards the distant land of Israel. I woke up this morning and clicked on the comments on a few major news outlets and a few major self-medias. I was dumbfounded to see that the netizens were united in their condemnation of Israel and in their praise of the militants as an act of patriotism. They claimed that Israel deserved it because they were Jewish with all kinds of problems. I don't understand this at all. I understand that people hate the Japanese, and I also understand that people hate the Americans because they have a blood feud with the Japanese, and the Americans have suppressed us for so many years. I can even understand if you hate the Polish. After all, Poland is helping Ukraine. Ukraine is at war with Russia, and we prefer Russia. Although there are 4 layers of relationships in between, I can understand if you hate the Polish. But the only thing I don't understand is why people hate Israel or the Jews. I'm not an advocate of Jewish capitalism, but I just don't understand where their hatred comes from and why it's so great. Little Pink usually refers to people who are highly receptive to the CCP's patriotic or party-loving education and ideology, and who are extremely hostile to all the so-called anti-Chinese forces. In this case, we called a large number of anti-Israeli Chinese Little Pinks because the source of their love and hate is the same. That is, the CCP's education and indoctrination. According to our observation, in the past 20 years, ordinary Chinese have never been so interested in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and many of them aren't even sure where on the map Palestine and Israel are. It's just that the CCP's propaganda machine is too powerful. When this state-level propaganda machine is in motion, it can make a large number of people grow to love or hate someone or something in a very short period of time. Apart from thousands of state-run television stations, print media, and online media, the CCP has also been using social media platforms such as TikTok, Weibo, Jihu, and so on to spread hatred against Israel so that ill-informed Chinese can also take part in it. For example, on the Chinese website Jihu, someone posted a slogan from the Mao Zedong era, the first party leader of the CCP. It reads, "Salute the heroic Palestinian people." Surely, senior CCP officials are leading by example. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang said at a press conference after the China-EU high-level strategic dialogue on October 13th, "The root cause of the Palestinian issue is that the historical injustice suffered by the Palestinian people has not been corrected. The correct path to advance the two-state solution is to resume peace talks as soon as possible. All kinds of mechanisms to promote talks should play an active role in this regard. A special Chinese envoy for Middle East peace will visit relevant countries in the region to make effort to cease fire and end bombing and to de-escalate the situation." Later, with even more loaded emotion, he said this, "Israel has the right to establish a state. Palestine has the right to establish a state as well. The subsistence of Israelis has been guaranteed, but who is going to care about the subsistence of the Palestinians?" However, CCP officials aren't as loyal as the Little Pinks. They change their colors according to the needs of the situation. On October 23rd, the CCP publicly acknowledged for the first time Israel's right to defend itself against Hamas while calling on Israel to consider the safety and security of civilians. Wang told Israeli Foreign Minister in a phone call, "Every country has the right to self-defense, but it should abide by international humanitarian law and protect civilians." What is the reason for this?
At the invitation of the U.S. Secretary of State Blinken, Wang Yi, a member of the Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China Central Committee and Chinese Foreign Minister, will visit the U.S. from October 26 to 28th.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry officially announced on October 24th that Wang Yi would visit the U.S. from October 26 to 28th. The day before, on October 23rd, U.S. officials disclosed that Wang would travel to Washington, D.C. to meet with Secretary of State Blinken and White House National Security Advisor Sullivan. China obviously takes such an invitation very seriously.
During Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit to the U.S., he will have an in-depth exchange of views with senior U.S. officials on China-U.S. relations and international and regional issues of mutual interest, carry out friendly exchanges with people from various sectors in the U.S., and make clear our principled position on bilateral relations as well as legitimate concerns. We hope that the U.S. side will work with China to deliver on the important common understandings reached between the two heads of state, strengthen communication and dialogue, expand practical cooperation, properly manage differences, and jointly bring the China-U.S. relations back to the track of sound and stable growth.
As a result, the CCP quickly adjusted its attitude towards Israel. The US and China have taken very different approaches to the Hamas attack on Israel. Hamas is considered a terrorist organization by the US and the European Union, and this time it has taken more than 200 hostages from various countries. Washington has strongly supported Israel, while the CCP has called for a ceasefire and has never condemned or criticized Hamas by name. U.S. President Joe Biden has said that Hamas must first release the hostages before they can discuss a ceasefire. In other words, the Gaza crisis has become a new point of disagreement between Beijing and Washington. During his visit to China, U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer publicly called on Beijing to be on the same side as Israel and criticized Wang Yi for his lack of sympathy and support.
I also made a direct request to President Xi that the Foreign Ministry strengthen their statement on the Middle East, which didn't even mention the horrible, gut-wrenching loss of civilian life. I'm gratified the Foreign Ministry issued a new statement that did condemn the loss of civilian life. I told them how deeply disappointed I was. You heard me. I think some of you were in the room when I actually said it. How deeply disappointed I was in the initial statement, and they rectified that. We also, a bunch of us, made the request that China use its influence on Iran to not allow the conflagration to spread.
China's foreign minister has changed his tune, and one wonders if the angry little pinks can emotionally keep up with his change. What needs to be made clear is that on the one hand, there are a large number of Chinese who have been led here and there by the party's rhetoric, and on the other hand, as the situation evolves and as many Chinese look for the truth bypassing China's Great Firewall, they are gradually piercing through the CCP's lies. For example, there has been a rapid change regarding hatred towards Israel. On the recent Weibo account of the Israeli embassy in China, many supportive voices have appeared from the Chinese community. On October 16th, netizens with IP addresses in various Chinese provinces wrote, "Honor belongs to Israel. I love the Jewish people and will always stand with you. Chinese people with a sense of justice also stand with you and support Israel to eliminate terrorists. Civilization stands with civilization." In the past 2 months, the CCP's hate propaganda has also become ineffective in the case of the Fukushima nuclear water discharge in Japan. On October 10th, Genron NPO, a non-profit organization in Japan, released a poll they conducted between August and September on the issue of Japan's discharge of nuclear-treated water among more than 1,000 people in China and Japan, respectively. The results of the poll shattered the impression of what appears to be the lopsided criticism of Japan on Chinese social media platforms. 51.7% of Chinese said they were not worried or unable to make up their minds, while only 47.6% said they were very worried or somewhat worried. Besides, 46.9% of Chinese people said they could trust the scientific verification by the International Atomic Energy Agency on the safety of Japan's marine emissions. The poll also mentioned that the main reason for Chinese people's negative impression of Japan is the issue of the Diaoyu Islands or Senkaku Islands, not the nuclear-treated water. In addition, many Chinese tourists chose to travel to Japan during this year's National Day long weekend holiday. Chinese media reported that according to data analyzed by Chinese search engine giant Baidu, Japan topped the list of popular overseas travel destinations, surpassing Thailand and South Korea. Japanese media reports that many Chinese tourists are crowding the counters at Beijing Airport for flights to Japan. Chinese flights to Tokyo are almost fully booked. In other words, many Chinese people realize that the CCP's attack on Japan's nuclear water treatment is just hype to divert the attention of the lower strata of the population and to find a vent for their anger. It can be assumed that the higher income earners don't necessarily see it that way. They have been to Japan and they know very well that Japan is a good country when it comes to natural environment, social security, and quality of goods. So Japan is the first choice for these people to travel abroad. The CCP's brainwashing propaganda is like a double-edged sword. Its campaign to incite hatred against Israel has been very successful, with many little pinks going crazy and behaving in ways that leave the onlookers speechless. At the same time, it has also made many Chinese realize the true nature of the CCP, which is counterproductive. It can be expected that these reversals will be repeated in Red China for years to come.